everybody in the great state of Wisconsin. It's Wednesday. We're dealing with rain, golf ball-sized hail yesterday in Marshfield, Wisconsin. It was a mess. Luckily, work van's okay. No cracks, no nothing. She's a sturdy son of a gun, so she's still good to go. Welcome to Wisconsin Sports on the Go with Trage. I'm your host, Trage. Today, I'm joined by Kaylee, KJ, off of our other national Wisconsin sports podcast, Trage and KJ's Locker Room Chats. How are you doing today, Kaylee?
Oh, just lovely, living in the monsoon weather. I'm just loving it. I really wanted a pool in my front yard, and I got it.
That's all you need. You know, this late in the year, all you could ask for is a little bit of a pool going on right there. And the rain, it doesn't look like it's stopping. It is going to continuously come this week, and that can only tell us what this weekend's going to hold on Saturday there at Camp Randall for that one. Oh, baby. Maybe if it's a mud mess, maybe it'll help the Badgers. I don't know. Maybe it will. Today, though, we have a lot of news to cover here. We're going to go off of yesterday. I went off the rails talking about the Packers. We have Overstretch Monday. That's usually where I go off the rails, and I go way too far with what I think is going on. But I held back on Monday. I saved it for Tuesday because I really had to get with my thoughts. So we're going to talk about a little bit more of what we were going with yesterday there with the Packers. We're also going to be looking at the Badgers. Luke Fickell talked a little bit leading up into this game with Ohio State, so we're going to look at what he had to say. We're also going to be looking at across the pond there, not really a pond, more of a lake, Michigan University right now. They're in a little bit of hot water. We're going to be looking at that. Kaylee loves nothing more than talking about the Bucks, so we're in with the Bucks today. They got their season opener tomorrow against who do the Bucks play tomorrow night? They play the 76ers. So we got the Bucks 76ers on Thursday. We're going to be talking a little bit about the Bucks, and then also a big name recruit coming to Madison to look at the campus on Saturday. He's going to be attending Ohio State, a big recruit for Wisconsin basketball. So we're going to get to him later on here. But to start it out, the Packers. Is Jordan Love truly not the best option for the Packers right now? Talked about it yesterday, and I even said, give Sean Clifford a shot. Why not give Sean Clifford a shot? What's it going to hurt for this Packers team right now? Kaylee, you've watched a little bit of Jordan Love this season. What are your reactions watching Jordan Love so far?
Honestly, I think he was almost overhyped. Like, he started off the season well, and that's expected. Like, we expected him to do well, and he was going to do okay. But I think because he did well right away and didn't have as many errors as they might have thought he was going to have, they almost were like, it's okay. This is Aaron Rodgers 2.0. We aren't losing anything. But they still forget that he is a rookie. I think that you just forget that. Honestly, if you compare him to any other quarterback in the league, you have your stars. You have Patrick Mahomes. You have Baker Mayfield right now, doing great things with Tampa. You have Joe Burrow doing great things with the Bengals. But he's a rookie. He could be competitive with like Mac Jones, Trajan's, as we say over on our podcast, sock dog. He's competitive with all of those quarterbacks, but he is a rookie. And I think that's what a lot of Packer fans are forgetting right now. I think that's what, honestly, Matt LaFleur is forgetting right now.
I think, yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I went off the rails talking about him. And that's why I really wanted you on, because you were going to bring me back to earth. You were going to give me the perspective. You were going to take and just, not dig into the stats, because I love to dig into the stats and just look at that. I don't look at the outside factor of it. And that's what I need. I need to look at the outside factor of it. And he is a rookie. He is a rookie in the league right now. He's had a couple games in the past where he had to come in and play. The Chiefs, the Eagles last year. But I agree. I mean, a lot of people are missing the fact that he's a rookie, and so is Matt LaFleur. And I think LaFleur hasn't adjusted his offense for what Jordan Love can do. He's trying to still play with Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers put a lot of Band-Aids over the holes that are in Matt LaFleur's offense. He made Matt LaFleur look good at times. Now Matt LaFleur is still trying to run the same stuff that he ran with Rodgers. It needs to be changed. You look at what the Packers can excel at: the short game, the run game, anything like that. Not getting some of these guys involved. Now we're trying to go deep. Love can't throw a consistent deep ball. Will that come over time? Possibly. Maybe with more experience, more gameplay, like you're saying. But as of right now, if Matt LaFleur is still calling the shots, Jordan Love will never be put in a good position. And that's where, in my next part there, does Murphy and the Funky Bunch need to go? Murphy, Gutekunst, Matt LaFleur, Joe Barry needs to go. We all know that. Do they need to go? That's where I'm really questioning, and I want to see from your perspective where you think the Packers could go from here. Do some guys in this front office out there on the field, on the sidelines, do some of those guys need to have their butts on the hot seat right now?
I think, going back to Jordan Love a little bit, I think Matt LaFleur needs to realize he's not going to have Aaron Rodgers again. You're not going to make Jordan Love an Aaron Rodgers 2.0. It's the same as like when Aaron Rodgers came in after Brett Favre. You were not going to have a Brett Favre 2.0. Very different player. So they had to adapt, become the Aaron Rodgers offense, no longer the Brett Favre offense. And, Mike McCarthy did that. He realized, I can't have a Brett Favre offense anymore. I need to have my Aaron Rodgers. Matt LaFleur hasn't figured that out yet. I say after this week, because they're taking on the Vikings, it's the North Showdown. Packers, Vikings. If you get thwomped by Kirk Cousins this week, because it's Kirk Cousins and the Vikings, they've struggled this year. If you don't figure it out after this week, that we need to change our offense a little bit, Matt LaFleur, I think you're on the hot seat. I think they question you a little bit more. And then you're going to question your quarterback coach. You're going to question your offense. You're going to question them first. You don't really need to question the defense too much. I mean, honestly, the defense for the Packers, they're doing pretty well. There's times where they struggle a little bit, but that's coming back to your head coach who's so focused on an Aaron Rodgers offense. So I say your offense, those coaches, your offensive side, you guys are on the hot seat after week 8 if you get completely destroyed by the Vikings. If it comes down to a field goal, something like that, maybe not quite yet. Defense, you're still okay right now. But offense, I say you're on the hot seat after this week 8 game.
Yeah, and that's where you look with Matt LaFleur. You watch constantly, week after week, he says, well, we have to make changes. We have to make changes. We haven't seen the changes yet. You had a bye week, like we were talking about yesterday. You had a bye week leading up into playing the worst team in the NFL. Statistically, the worst team in the whole entire National Football League. You expected to have a bye week and a win right there. That's what you needed. You needed a bye week, a win, and then you played Minnesota. Now you had a bye week. You won a season. Now you played the Broncos. You lost. And that sets you up terribly for this stretch here. Because the Vikings just beat the 49ers. They found out something that was working for them, and they made it happen. It scares me with the Vikings coming up that they just took care of the 49ers leading up into this one. Looking at the lack of the number one wide receiver, I think that is the biggest problem with the Packers. They don't have a veteran. They don't have somebody in there to salt away the wounds. You look at Matt LaFleur's offense. Right now, you constantly have receivers running into each other, running the same routes. Nothing is on the same page. A veteran wide receiver, somebody to fix the problem, somebody who's going to run that route that you need, who's got the same mindset as you. Right now, this offense is so out of focus that they don't have the same mindset going into the game right now. The offensive line they aren't in hand with what Jordan Love wants to do. The receivers aren't in hand with what they're supposed to do. The running back, A.J. Dillon, Aaron Jones, I don't have a problem with what they're doing right now. I thought A.J. Dillon could have been utilized more in this last game there against the Broncos. Aaron Jones, would you agree? I talked about it yesterday. We don't see Aaron Jones enough right now. If he's on a pitch count because he is still coming back from injury, why are we playing him? Why is he out there? Because if I can't have Aaron Jones on the final drive, my best running back, if you ask me, the best player on the offense, if I cannot have Aaron Jones on the last drive of the game, why is he playing at all? If we're just risking Aaron Jones throughout the whole entire season now, because if we play him too much, he's going to get injured again. Why is he out there? Why is he getting snaps that he's utilized in the snaps he's getting. He's actually productive in the snaps he's getting, but we're not using him when we need him. Would you agree that if he's on a pitch count right now, there's no reason we are playing him if we're just risking further injury?
I would say, I don't know if they're necessarily worried with the injury, but I think they almost forget about him sometimes because they're like, again, back to they're trying to stay with an Aaron Rodgers offense. And they're like, it's fine. Jordan Love will throw the ball. He'll get us to the yards we need. And then they forget about their running backs. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh, well, Jordan Love's not throwing. I guess we better use our running backs now. But then they're like, where do we go from here? Because we're struggling. Do we just throw them in? And I don't think they really have a plan. Honestly, again, like I said,
one-dimensional. They're not playing complementary football through and through.
I'd agree with that. That would, yeah, definitely.
I agree with that. Okay. Yeah, I can see that. I can see it from that. And that goes along with my next point there. Play calling isn't helping Jordan Love. It isn't helping the offense out at all. You look at, like we said yesterday, they come in with the defense. They were talking about the defense, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's both ways. They come in with a game plan. They make an adjustment, maybe a small adjustment. Nobody knows what they're doing. They go into halftime. They try to make another adjustment, and then nobody knows what's going on. Nobody's in the same boat. They're all on separate boats sailing off in the opposite direction. And then we watch it out on the field, and it's just a train wreck. And that's where I think the Packers are at right now. And that's my problem with Matt LaFleur right now, is the lack of his play calling. The play calling is just terrible right now for this Green Bay Packer team. And can Matt LaFleur figure out something? We know. We sit here and we watch what works for the Packers offense. The run game, using the running backs in the pass game, and the short pass game. Nothing deep. Jordan Love cannot throw consistently deep right now. He underthrows receivers left and right. Now, is that because he doesn't have a lot of time in the pocket? Yes. The offensive line is terrible for the Packers right now. But on the flip side of that, he does have some open pockets where he does underthrow receivers, or he makes the wrong read. Why are you trying to go deep when you have a guy wide open underneath? There's a lot of things going wrong with the Packers right now. The biggest thing, I think, is the focus, and I think they need to focus back in here coming up against the Vikings. You had a week, 2 weeks almost, to prepare for the Broncos. You didn't prepare very well. Now you have a week to prepare for the Minnesota Vikings. This is a game the Packers need if they're going to make anything out of this season here. That's plain and simple. That's it. But that's enough about the Packers. We're going to get more into the Packers. We have an interview actually coming up tomorrow. So we're going to get back into the Packers there on Friday in the preview. But for the rest of this, we're going to be covering the Badgers. We have the Badgers. Luke Fickell came out and he talked about the Ohio State game. And we're going to look into that interview just a little bit, talk about it. So Luke Fickell came out. They were talking to him in his Monday presser. And he said the most talented teams don't always win. Closing the gap is what he wanted to really emphasize. Find ways to continue to close gaps. There are gaps in everything. The best teams don't always win. The most talented teams don't always win games. Flip on college football every Saturday. It's crazy how things happen. He went on to say, he talked about the win over Illinois. He said it's a little different the way you feel after a victory. It's an incredible comeback. The best thing about the game is when you have a comeback like that, you don't have a lot of time to enjoy some of those things. But the great thing is we haven't finished a game or been in a situation like that. That was the first time I had seen something different from our team. We didn't change the demeanor on the sideline when things didn't go well. For the first time in 9 to 10 months, I saw a difference in the final quarter. I saw a different will. I saw a different passion. I saw a different intensity. That was probably more exciting than the win itself. Looking into that, that tells me this Badger team finally found a focus. They finally found a drive in that Illinois game. What they didn't have early on in this season, it looked like they were kind of just dragging their feet. They were just going along. You look at the Buffalo game early on, they should have won that game going away. It was closer than what it should have been. They lost to Washington State. You look at some of the other wins there, they should have won Georgia Southern. that game should have been more in hand, and it was closer than it should have been. I mean, you go through the season schedule and you look, it's like they're dragging their feet. Finally, against Illinois, they show us something, and I think he said it perfect in there. You saw some kind of fire out of the Badgers that we haven't seen yet. Is that the change in quarterback that might have sparked that? Now having Braden Locke, and I thought Braden Locke played a pretty good game against Illinois. You look at some of those incompletions, the receivers need to learn how to catch. That's plain and simple what it is. But I thought Braden Locke played a pretty good game. What were you seeing watching that game? Like he was saying with the demeanor change, it honestly looked like there was a little bit more fire out of the Badger team there late. Like they got that second breath and they said, okay, we can do this. What was your reaction watching that ball game?
I think they almost kind of woke up and said, are we really losing this game right now? We shouldn't lose this. We just lost to Iowa. Guys, do we want to lose 2 weeks in a row and then go into Ohio State? No one expects us to win. I bet some of those guys are thinking like, hey, we need to hold them to, we only want to lose by 2 touchdowns. That's what we need to go into Ohio State thinking. So they were sitting there thinking, are we going to let the Illy beat us? What's even an Illy? So I think those guys kind of looked at it, realized, hey, we don't want to lose. We need to figure it out. We're Wisconsin football. That's what I thought of it.
I love the reaction. I love the reaction. That is your basic fan reaction right there. I love it. That's what I needed. That's what I needed. The love for Badger football.
I mean, but think about it. The guys that are playing for Badger football, most of them, there had to have been some part of them growing up that was a Badger fan. You're not going to go to a school if you don't like them. You're not going to go to a school if you didn't support them. So some part of them is a Badger fan. So some part of them deep down said, we are losing to the Fighting Illy. Again, it's the Illy. We got to beat them.
This is true. It was that drive that picked it up there late. Maybe that was the thought going in their heads. I never thought about that. Maybe that was the thought. I don't want to lose to the Illini. We just lost to Iowa. Now we're playing Illinois. We lose this one. We're going to lose to Ohio State. That's 3 in a row. That's a losing streak. That's what we call a losing streak right there. So it was an impressive win. It was an impressive comeback. And the final play call there to Rucci for that touchdown, I wouldn't have dreamed of it. I wouldn't have dreamed that was going to be the call. I did see, though, it was the funniest thing. Some fan was going off about how Paul Chryst would have never called that. Would have never called that play. And I saw some fan went back then, and he goes, yeah, he says, brilliant call. Paul Chryst would have never called something like that. And then another fan came back, and he goes, he did. And he said it was actually the same as result, same field, same end zone corners 6 years ago on the week of Illinois' homecoming. Paul Chryst drew up the same play. I just laughed so hard when I saw it. It wasn't the exact makeup of that play. It wasn't the exact same, but
so
I just laughed.
Then that Luke Fickell reviewed the tape from back in the day and was like, oh, guys, this might seem crazy. This might seem crazy, but I'm going to pull this out of Paul Chryst's ass.
It would have been hilarious because you know how many people have just dissed Paul Chryst's offense and have just said that Paul Chryst has just got this terrible offense and everything in between. And now they call the basically same play call. I mean, would just be baffling, honestly.
I'd agree. I think we need to ask Luke Fickell, sir. Did you steal Paul Chryst? Did you steal his green notebook, like on The Waterboy? Did you steal his green notebook?
You steal the green notebook. He must have. I think he did. But he didn't steal the whole thing because we still try to throw the ball more than we run the ball. So he didn't steal the whole thing. We're not a run offense anymore. But back to Luke Fickell here. Back to Luke. He went on to talk about his previous games against Ohio State, at Akron and Cincinnati. And he basically said it didn't go well. They went to Columbus, played there when he was at Akron and Cincinnati. There was different things You learn. The most important thing was it's not about me. We have some guys on our staff, myself included, that have some obvious history there. Basically saying we got shellacked the last time I went to Ohio State. He said it was about the journey that we're on and the process that we're in for his players and his program. And he said, hey, you went to school there. Hey, you played there. Hey, you got guys and your staff from there. When the ball is kicked off, that'll have absolutely no effect on anything that happens on the field. We try to just focus on things that are going to have the greatest effect on Saturday night. So basically saying there that all the outside noise, everything in between needs to be shut off when it comes to game time on Saturday. Going on, he talked about the importance of closing the gap with Ohio State. So going off of what I started with there, he said closing the gap, we're always looking for those gaps. If you're a guy at the very top, then you're trying to make sure you don't allow them to close the gaps. Last year we find ways to close the gaps. If we don't use what happened last year as a learning lesson, whether we were here or not, then we wouldn't be doing our job. Find ways to continue to close gaps. There are gaps in everything. You can really measure yourself and find out where you are as an individual, as a program, and as a team. We've got to continue to close gaps. The best teams don't always win. The most talented teams don't always win. And like you went on to say, flip on college football every Saturday and watch it happen. Basically telling us we know that this Ohio State team might be more talented. They might have a little bit more firepower. But we can find holes. We can find holes to make what we want to do happen and slow down what they want to do. Looking at their quarterback play, they don't have the most talented quarterback right now. Right now, McCord is not the most talented quarterback that Ohio State's ever seen. But Luke Fickell, like he's saying here, we can close that gap. Okay, they don't have the most talented quarterback. They still have weapons. Marvin Harrison, huge weapon. They have weapons in the backfield. They still have other receivers' weapons out there. But they're saying what he's saying is that there's a gap there. We can close that gap. We can make it our field then and make things happen. Put pressure on them, whatever you have to do. That's what I get out of that. In that statement there by Luke Fickell, closing the gap, is to try to take the talent levels and try to do things to really eliminate what they can do. Maybe try to take Marvin Harrison out of the game as much as you can. You're not going to be able to. He's one of the most dynamic wide receivers in all of football right now in college football, but you can possibly be able to slow him down to the point where he's manageable in this one. And he went on to talk about it, and he also talked about what that game means for recruiting. And he said the game day experience is critical in developing not just a relationship, but guys understand that what it's like to be on campus. This is a great opportunity for us. We know that it's going to be an electric environment. Apparently, he thinks the Camp Randall is going to be loaded up with fans on this Saturday night. Went on to say we have to do our part to make it a sustainable throughout the entire game. It'll be a big part of what Saturday is. It's a great opportunity for all of us to showcase what we've got here, not just on the football field, but our ability to create an environment and an atmosphere that you'd want to be a part of. Big game. People are praying for an upset. If it's an explosive environment, you will draw recruits in. I think that's a good point by Luke Fickell. Is a game like this, especially in prime time, guys will think, okay, if I come to Madison, I could be a part of an atmosphere like this. And I think that is a big draw to the college. What do you think with that?
I also like that Luke Fickell has focused so much on making this about the Badgers and not him. It's not about him and his coaching. It's not about how he's going to coach this game. It's how the guys are going to come out and play. It's how the Badgers are going to react. It's how the fans are going to react. It's not about him. And I really enjoyed that because he could take it as, yep, I've got a chip on my shoulder. I went in there with my Cincinnati team and I got beat. I didn't have as talented a team as Wisconsin. Now I have this talented team. I'm going to take them in there. We're going to go for the upset. But no, it's, my guys are going to go in there for the upset. They're hungry for it. They're driving for it. They're wanting to play. The fans are wanting to see it. So I really enjoy that, first off. And then I definitely agree with you. I think it's going to be a big atmosphere. Honestly, Camp Randall, always rocking. It doesn't matter who comes to town. They want to see an upset. Who doesn't want to see the Badgers go in, upset the number 3 team in the nation, for one, and see the Badgers continue on to be the leader in the Big Ten East. Because right now, you're not in first place anymore. You were in first place. The Badgers were playing well. They were beating teams. They were beating teams by, 2-3 touchdowns. And then they've gone on a little bit of a losing streak. We want to see greatness happen again. So you want to see that as a recruit, too. You want to see that if we're struggling a little bit, we're going into the team as the underdog. Are the fans going to support me? We're going into play Ohio State this week. Are the fans going to support me? Or are they going to say, Ohio State's going to come in here. They're going to shellac us. They're going to crush us. But the fans still support me. You want to see that as a recruit.
Well, hopefully they don't listen to this podcast then, because I have bad feelings about this game.
We're just honest.
We're honest with what we do. We have to call it as we see it.
But we want to see them win. We still have the support and want to see the Badgers win.
We're still going to watch it. It doesn't matter. I might shut it off at halftime, barring the score, but we're still going to support them to the first quarter. But with that, we're going to stay in college football because across the pond, across that little lake there in between Wisconsin and Michigan, Michigan is in some hot water right now. And if you're not keeping track of it right now, basically to sum it all up, they have video proof that a Michigan analyst has been illegally recording and going to other teams' games, recording the sidelines, everything like that, to basically scout. It as actually was reported that he had bought, the guy's name is Connor Stallings. He's actually a suspended Michigan analyst. And it is actually reported now that he bought tickets for games at 4 schools outside of the Big Ten now, who were either in the college football contention or playing contenders right now. So a little bit more hot water right there. Also, 11 schools do have video evidence showing him there at these ball games, and 12 of the 13 possible Big Ten schools have a record of him buying tickets. I look at this and say, okay, it does state in the rules that you can't do it. It does state in the rules. You cannot do this. But I also look at it as a perspective of, okay, if you watch film of these games, if you watch the film that you get, you can see the sidelines. You can see the motions that they're making on the sidelines. And you're getting all the hand signals and everything like that when you're watching game film. So I get it that it's against the rules, but at the same time, you look at it on the outside perspective, you're already doing that. You're already doing that when you're watching game film. So I understand the difference. You're going to the games now and you're specifically focusing on that. But at the same time, you could get that out of game film that you're receiving. You could watch it on national television, and if you got the outside view, if you had the overhead view, you'd be able to zoom in and see he waves his arm like this when we're going to do this. I mean, you can see all that kind of stuff. So it's like sign stealing in baseball. I mean, everybody's done it for hundreds of years. That's why catchers went to the microphone in the helmet now, or the pitch comp. So that way they would be able to, I want the fastball now. I don't have to put my one finger down for fastball anymore because otherwise the guy on second is going to steal my sign. Same thing here. You're stealing signs. What do you see out of this? What do you think out of this right now? What we're seeing with this, how Michigan is being basically, they're being investigated for this right now, and it could lead to some terrible repercussions for Michigan. What do you think about this whole scenario?
I mean, I'd agree with you there. Like, yes, you can't send someone to go do this, but you can find it other ways. I mean, if you wanted, so Michigan, number 2 in the nation right now, let's say they wanted to see Georgia. They're studying Georgia's coach. You tape any game that Georgia has on TV, they show the coaches at some point that you're going to get signs out of that, like you said. So, I mean, there's other ways around it. So, just because you're not catching, let's say, Wisconsin, you're not catching Wisconsin sending a guy to all these games to get the signs. That doesn't mean Wisconsin's not finding another way to get these signs. Like, I think they the guy should get in trouble. Yes. He should be whatever. You want to fire him, whatever it is, go for it. But I don't think that the team as a whole should really get that many repercussions against them because you're going to find a way to get the information you want anyway. That's just the day and age we're in. It's not like even 20 years ago where you couldn't just tape a national football game. You couldn't just watch it on YouTube. You can't do any of that. Like, that wasn't as common even 20 years ago. It's super common now. It's same with game film. Like you said, you can find a way to zoom in on a game film to see what the coaches are doing on the sidelines. So I don't think Michigan should get in as much trouble. Sure, you're going to want to make an example out of them because you don't want teams sending someone to scout all their opponents constantly. You don't want that. But I don't think that Michigan should be punished at a high level, maybe at a medium to low level.
Well, it's in high school football too. I mean, high school football sends guys to other. I mean, I did it as a player. We would go to, if we were playing, I don't know, Wisconsin, if we were going to end up playing like Edgar. I mean, we ended up playing Edgar in the playoffs. Don't want to talk about it. It was a terrible game. We got our butts kicked. But we were playing Edgar. We knew we were going to play Edgar. So if Edgar had a game, we were going to watch it. And I was going to take whatever I saw. If I saw a coach wave his arm in a circle, and that meant they were going to do some kind of blitz or they were going to shoot different gaps, that's what I would take from that. I would be able to watch that. You know, you watch how many times in baseball you stand there in high school, and I would stare at the third base coach and just try to figure out, okay, when he taps he's going to rub his arm 14 times, and then he's going to tap his cap twice, and then he's going to rub his belt. What does the batter do? You know, you're constantly watching these different things throughout games that you're going to pick up on. So that's where I'm like, I can see where it's a rule and you're not supposed to be able to do it, but at the same time, I see the flip side of it where it's like, we do it anyways. We do it anyways to get an advantage in these games. But that's enough about Michigan. We hate Michigan, so we're enough about them. We don't care what happens out of that. If the people get suspended, if Jim Harbaugh is out for the year, whatever. That's okay with me. With that, though, we got a little bit of Bucks. I want to talk a little bit of Bucks. Kaylee's on. We're going to talk a little bit of Bucks here. What do you think leading into the Bucks season this year? Who do you got in your starting five? Who's your starting five for this Bucks team?
Ooh, that's tough. Hang on. Let me pull up a Bucks roster real quick because I gotta look. Giannis, obviously. That one's easy. Why is it not pulling up their current roster? This is stupid.
Well, you got Dame.
Yep.
You got Middleton. You got Brook Lopez.
Here we go. Yeah, I found it. So I'd say Giannis, Dame, Brook Lopez, Chris Middleton, and that'd be my starting forward, my center.
You're basically missing your either small forward shooting guard, whatever you decide not to do with Chris Middleton.
I'd almost say I could maybe see Bobby Portis. Maybe sprinkle him in there for a couple games at the beginning. Maybe see a little bit of Jake Crowder at the beginning. Otherwise, I'm going to go with...
I got Beasley.
I would say Beasley. But I could see you sprinkling in Crowder.
With them. I think they try to bring Bobby off the bench as much as they possibly can.
True, he does thrive
just because
there.
I think he's a great bench player for the Bucks, and I think Jake Crowder adds another dynamic off the bench. So I'm gonna go with Beasley would be mine. I got the same four, just Beasley would be my number 5, starting in that shooting guard spot for the Bucks.
I think he'll start the first game of the season. I think he'll start the home opener on Thursday. Or maybe, I don't think it's home. But he'll start the opener Thursday night. It is at home. Oh, yeah, we just talked about that. He'll start the home opener Thursday. I think if he struggles a little bit, you might see Crowder and then potentially Bobby Portis.
I
Those
think
would
it
be
might
my
depend on
no.
matchups too. Matchups could be the Bucks are deep. I think they got a deep team, and I think they could almost play matchup if they got to play a little bit of a bigger lineup. They could put in Jay Crowder, or they could put in Bobby Portis right away, something like that, kind of to mix it up.
Agreed. Agreed. Or some load management, you know.
I think did you cut out? I think you did. You say something?
I think you did. I just said maybe a little load management up in there.
Maybe a little bit of load management. I'd have to agree with that. Maybe load management. But so, and we did get a report as of yesterday. Bobby Portis does look like he says he is ready to go for the home opener. So that is good to see Bobby Portis. He sat out that last game of the preseason. So good to see Bobby Portis is ready to rock and roll coming into this next one. But with that, we ran a little bit long today. We had a little bit longer of a talk, but that was because Kaylee was on and we had to expand it out a little bit. But it has been awesome talking with you, Kaylee. Say bye to the people.
Bye, people.
This has been Wisconsin Sports on the Go with Trades. We'll be back with you tomorrow. But until then, deuces.